Good evening and welcome to the Hibs Observer Monday briefing with myself, Liam Bryce, joined by Craig Nisbet to take a look back at Saturday's 1-1 draw with Kilmarnock a wee bit later than advertised this evening, folks. So sorry if we've kept anybody waiting, but we'll get stuck straight into it as soon as we can. Just before we go, though, as always, a word for our sponsor. Hibs Observer is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs, so start your search today. Greg, thanks as always for joining us. How are you getting on? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good, thank you.
Good, man. So let's get stuck straight into Saturday's game because we've got an awful lot to cover, I would say. Let's have a wee look. As always, we just always start with the Hibs starting 11 on the day. I mean, I was intrigued when this came out, to be honest with you, because it was a sort of a bit of a change from previous weeks. I think certainly in terms of stylistically as well. Obviously, you had Dylan Levitt coming back into the team, Junior Hoylett coming in as well, Jordan Abita for the injured Nicky Cadden. And I think there was an element of this, for me, Craig, of David Gray not waiting to see if he could just throw somebody in to replace Nicky Cadden and then hope that everything carried on as normal. He's been such a creative threat, such an attacking outlet. This, I don't know, but to me, some of the selections here felt a wee bit like trying to get ahead of the game almost, rather than, as I said, waiting to see if Cadden's absence caused any issues. I mean, particularly in midfield, I think if you bring in Levitt and Hoylett, as opposed to Josh Campbell's been playing in that more advanced position a lot of late, it maybe kind of suggests trying to bring in a more creative presence with Hoylett, certainly with Levitt as well. Levitt, Triantis, Hoylett. It felt like a team that was set up to try and play through Kilmarnock to try and get the ball down, and I feel like that's obviously we'll get to the midfield in a lot of detail. But as far as the selection goes, that was my kind of reading of it.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it, actually, in terms of trying to get ahead of the no Nicky Cadden and just how we'd manage that, because it's a lot for Obita to take on coming back into the team, and we do probably need to share the load a little bit while Nicky Cadden's injured. So I was surprised, it's something we've spoke about for a couple of weeks about, David Gray does like to change things around and bring people in and, have certain players and certain lineups for particular games. I didn't think I'd see Levitt, and I thought maybe that would be the lineup against St Johnstone at home, for example, when you're going to have a lot of the ball. But we ended up having a lot of ball against Kilmarnock. So it was really good to see, I think, Levitt and Hoylett in there, and I thought they both did pretty well. It was, considering they've not started for a fair wee while or consistently been playing, and they both brought like good attributes to the game, and it just shows you that different sort of different attribute that they can bring to the team, and I think that's good going into the the run of games we've got going, and then post split fixtures as well, that we can rotate the team like that without having too big an impact.
Yeah, it did look like a kind of it looked strong to me, I think, even with Nicky Cadden not being in the team. So if we can even just take a wee look at how that lineup actually panned out on the pitch, because obviously formations themselves are really only on paper, and what happens on the pitch can look a lot different. So I mean, you can see here that Hoylett, and I felt like this was, I could see this happening during the game. He did pull off to that left hand side quite a lot, didn't it? And it was as if it was to give Abita some support out there, because I think there's maybe been I think with Cadden, sometimes you want to leave him on his own out there. You don't want to be dragging other players, the opposition players, into that area, because that when he gets the ball, he can get it out his feet quickly and get across him before opposition defenders can get out to him. But it was so. I mean, you're going to have to make adjustments in his absence, and it felt like a wee bit of a change of tact. You could see Hoylett pulling into that area quite a lot.
Yeah, and I think Nicky Cadden tends to, he's not always as high and wide as Obita is in that, passing network there. And I think the fact that, Iredale had Levitt in there to connect the game, I did think Hoylett would take that position up. And you remember when Hoylett first came in and Obita was playing left back and Hoylett was sort of playing left midfield, he often sort of drifted inside, and him and Obita had quite a nice relationship and kind of partnership brewing. because obviously Hoylett likes to come inside and Obita likes to get forward. So it was good to see that again. I actually thought that was fairly effective, especially I thought our left hand side was pretty effective, especially in the first half.
Yeah.
So and you can obviously, Levitt had quite a big impact in the centre of the park. And it was interesting seeing Bowie and Boyle quite close together as well. So I think with Nicky Cadden going out, like you said, Gray's made adjustments there with a couple of players in the team, and it just gave us a bit of a new dimension in terms of how we were playing out from the back and trying to play through, which I personally enjoyed seeing us play like that.
Yeah, I think even with the result, I felt like it was one of Hibs' better away performances of recent times in terms of how they connected the game. There was the sort of I felt it, especially in the first half, there was a lot of confidence in how they got the ball down. We'll get to the midfield as I said, but I thought Levitt was very good. His first start, I think, for maybe 4 or 5 weeks, coming back in and showing that he's got a lot to offer. But as far as how the game itself actually panned out, this is where the frustration will be, because Hibs, according to StatsBomb's estimate, this was higher actually in some other sources I've seen. But StatsBomb having Hibs expected goals on the day is 1.42 to Kilmarnock's 0.89, and you see like the most significant chance of Kilmarnock's was the one that came in stoppage time right at the end of the game. Hibs limited them to very little until that point. StatsBomb given, and based on how it panned out, Hibs a 49% chance of victory, home win 22%, draw 29%. So I mean, although it didn't feel to me as though Hibs, they were missing sitters to put the game away, there was an accumulation of sort of lower expected goal chances, if you wanted, maybe half chances if you're being a bit more traditional about it. And it's like you can see where it sort of tails off there as well. Towards the end, where Kilmarnock maybe they started throwing caution to the wind a wee bit. They didn't, as you can see, didn't create an awful lot in that spell, but it felt as though they were starting to push. But that kind of that makes it seem a wee bit frustrating, doesn't it, when you see the sort of the disparity in the expected goals there and how kind of little Kilmarnock really created over the piece.
Yeah, it felt like a tiny little bit of a throwback to earlier in the season when we were conceding like late on in the game, when I felt quite confident. I mean, they did throw caution to the wind, they did make a lot of subs, and it's kind of like a sort of caught in how I think about this, but I felt the subs David Gray made were the correct subs. I think they maybe could have came earlier, but I don't know if it would have had that big an impact on the goal, for example. So it's a really tricky one, but frustrating, because in the second half we had those chances. Triantis had a shot, Boyle had his shot quite early on in the second half. Sorry, we had the free kick that Rocky or Gale got on the end off and just sort of put wide of the post. So, we had those half chances, and I think towards the end it was a bit like, we know Kilmarnock were going to throw stuff at us. We tried to balance it out. Kurevich came on, we put Campbell on, we tried to be a bit more physical than we had and just look to sit back in and see games out, which we've done before, but just unfortunately we just got caught out at the very end.
Yeah, a wee throwback, as you say, to earlier in the season. Hopefully not the return of a consistent theme as we saw in the rest of the season, but I think you've got to give this team the benefit of the doubt as to how far they've come. So what we're going to do, folks, is just have a more in-depth look at that midfield setup, because it was probably the most interesting element of Hibs' performance on the day, I thought.
Yeah, I really liked it, and especially in the first half. I mean, you were obviously at the game, so Kilmarnock are sort of like that 3-4-3, aren't they? Like the terms of when they set up, obviously with their Armstrong and Murray is sort of like the wing backs, so they're kind of similar setup to how we play, but they have that front three. And I think this is where it was quite good from David Gray, the fact that Levitt and Triantis were in there. Either of them could kind of drop in, like you're seeing Levitt doing this clip here, and just help us connect the game a little bit. And I don't think Kilmarnock ever really got to grips with Levitt or Triantis at all, really, in the first half. And you probably had a better view from being at the game there, but I would imagine that Boyle, Bowie and Hoylett almost probably looked like a front three, and we're dropping in spaces, keeping the Kilmarnock sort of midfielders deep as well. So we had a lot of space in the middle to play with. And we'll go through the clips here. This is just a simple one, but just so effective in playing out when Kilmarnock have got 3 forwards and we've got 3 centre halves. Just having a midfielder just to drop in and just pop it out the other side, as you can see there, just means we can step forward onto the game. And I think Levitt did that most of the afternoon. If you go into the next clip, you can see like Levitt stays close to Rocky, and he did this quite a lot, and we'll see later on he drops into the back 3 at times as well to almost make it like a 4 to create a little bit of space here. Triantis actually was a wee bit more advanced, started to move forward a little bit more. And then this is what we were saying at the top of the show about Hoylett, just takes up that little position, sort of a little bit more advanced on that left-hand side, and you can sort of see Obita out on the far side there. But Rocky dribbles forward here. If you go into the next clip, the ball, Hoylett spins away.
Yep.
The ball goes out to Iredale, but then you can see Hoylett dropping into that space, but you can see Obita on the other side going in behind as well. So that was quite a feature on that side, and that's kind of what we were saying at the top of the show with the passing networks and their positioning, is that's how they were taken up, and it was just causing Kilmarnock a lot of issues. And obviously we can see that we were still able to sort of keep possession quite comfortably. Even if Kilmarnock forced us back, we were able to sort of rotate and go out the other side quite effectively as well. I don't know, was that the perception you got from being at the game as well, and just from that distance?
Yeah, I felt like, as I said, I think the word I used earlier on was it felt like a pretty confident performance in that first half, and it felt for a while like there was a goal coming. I was kind of pleasantly surprised that this was the kind of approach that David Gray took, because I think the last time Hibs came to Rugby Park, it was very much, he had a sort of flat midfield 3, if I remember right. I think it was Newell, Quan, Triantis, and it was as if Hibs were set up that day just to try and match Kilmarnock, match them in the sort of the battling side of it. And then it was only, I think, towards as the game progressed, it was almost like, right, we have the quality now to maybe try and take a grip of this a wee bit. But this was completely different. And sometimes people come to this pitch and try and play the percentages and try and play it, but I think it's not the best artificial surface, I think, and I think it particularly doesn't look great on camera or when you're there, but it is quick. I think you can move the ball on it, I think Hibs did a lot of that in that first half. There was wee combinations. I think if you get Levitt involved as much as possible, if he's on his game, then he can dictate it. And he's one of those, I think sometimes it's been assumed that he's not as tenacious or not as, I'm not sure exactly what the word is in this context, but what I'm kind of mean is if you watch him, he does constantly demand the ball, and he is a lot of the time trying to direct other players where to go at. There was a point where he had a right go, I think, at Jordan Smith for going long instead of trying to play out. So it's a kind of, I feel as if there seems to have been work done, I think, with him to try and, build him up in that role almost, because I think he has sort of shown signs of kind of understanding the sort of number 6 role a wee bit better, because there was always this debate about him, like, should he play there or should he play further forward? I think I like him in that role. He's never going to be the quickest, the strongest, or the most physically imposing, but I think you can still play that role. See, if you get to a point where you understand the position inside out, you know where to be, you can anticipate where to go to pick up second balls, you can press at the right times, drop off. I think it's you don't have to be a monster, I think, to play in that role. In this league, I do like him in there.
Yeah, I agree, and it's also the people around about him as well. I think him in there, it freed up Triantis a little bit. Sometimes the pressure, I think in the last couple of games, it was all falling on him to build up, especially with Mariah Welsh in there, and he was struggling a little bit. And also think for Campbell as well, like, he doesn't always look to get to feet. So for Levitt, having Hoylett in there as well, it just makes a difference. And it goes into the next clip. You can see like Kilmarnock actually forced us back here, but Levitt drops off into that space, and Hoylett just jogs forward really into that area there, and it's just a straight pass from Rocky, and we're on the front foot, and I'm sure we turn and we just play in and we go in for like an attack. But another example, like, it goes onto that side, and Levitt kind of brings down the ball goes into Bowie, who just pops it off. You see Triantis is almost kind of filled in that spot as Levitt drives forward there. And you can see almost Hoylett's now become like the centre forward, and it's Boyle that's kind of dropped into that number 10. And if you go to the next clip, this is the chance that Boyle then dribbles forward and he overhits a pass into to Hoylett in that one, but we get good support. So I actually thought as well, Hoylett kind of complemented Boyle and Bowie quite well as well in that position. If you go into the next clip, again, this is just another part of him, just like simple. He's obviously being pressed here. He goes into Rocky. If you go to the next clip, it's just a quick 1-2 around the striker. Again, Kilmarnock's press is sort of a little bit all over the place there. But he was always, like you were saying about him demanding the ball, he was always looking for things like this and demanding the ball back in those spaces. If you go into the next clip, and then again, he's then connecting it and all, he's doing everything 1-2 touch. And I think that was probably the biggest thing about having him in the middle. Nothing was slowing down. It was getting popped off nice and quick. There was no extra touches. Everything was done with quality. And we've seen him do that when he came on, when he came on against Hearts and things like that. He's got that ability to sort of calm a game down. But maybe the criticism has been, can he take a game from kickoff and dictate it? And I think this was a big example of him doing that.
And all this might look very simple, but it's not easy to do,
it's
really,
not,
isn't it?
No, it's not. And as I said, a lot of this pressure was on Triantis to do, which he's still very good at that. But actually having him in a bit more of an advanced role, we know he can drive forward and he's physical and he can get shots away at goal and score goals and things like that. So again, Levitt drops in again to that, like in beside Rocky, Iredale and Miller to make the 4 in a little 2v1. Rocky's able to step out there. And interesting, Triantis, as that was progressing, kind of moves from that position at the base of the arrow to the top and almost leaves that space free and sort of points in the direction of Rocky and Levitt to look for somebody in that position. You can actually see Hoylett on this occasion is now just at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So he was really flexible in that number 10 role across the pitch. If you go into the next clip, this is where the ball gets played out and Miller actually leaves it for Cadden. Triantis recognises the space in the middle there because Levitt's obviously on that other side and they're dropped into the back 4. And if you go into the next part, this is the clip where Triantis Cadden plays it in, and we've got Lewis Miller with a sort of underlap to Chris Cadden, and it gets clipped in behind, and Miller goes 1v1 and wins a corner. And not to get too fashionista about or footballista about all this, but that's your right centre back overlapping your right wing back and creating a chance. It's good to see us play like that, and you can see that confidence coming through, and that's the benefit of having Lewis Miller in that position is he's comfortable running in behind, and Chris Cadden's more than capable of covering in at right centre back. So again, for O'Hora on the bench, that's probably why Miller's getting the nod at this point, because he offers that as well.
Aye.
And if you go into the next clip, again, this was probably one scene. It's just like taking things on the back foot. It's something I'm sure anyone that coaches has probably said that a million times before for midfielders taking on the back foot. And again, it looks very simple to do, but when the ball comes into you under a bit of pressure, you want somebody that can just do things in 1 or 2 touches. And this one here, he just is able to take it and switch it out the other side, which he does in the next clip. And again, you can see then on that side as Iredale goes forward, we've almost got a 3v3, with Obita and Hoylett and Iredale coming forward. And I think this might be, if you go into the next clip, I think this actually ends up being the Hoylett chance where he cuts inside and hits the shot that just goes over the bar. But you can just see the setup. Obita drags the wing back wide. Iredale's got that clean pass straight in. It allows Hoylett to sort of take the centre back out in 1v1, and Bowie's obviously in the middle with the central centre back there, and obviously Hoylett cuts in and has the shot that just kind of goes over the bar. And this and as we touched on as well, I think because of Hoylett's movement, I thought Boyle seemed to be a bit more free, and this was him kind of picking things up on the left hand side there. Obita's obviously still high and wide, and again, this is the benefit I think of having Hoylett, and just in terms of how clever his movement is. Boyle drives inside here, but you can see Hoylett recognises the space. And if you go into the next clip, Boyle plays a really nice weighted pass through, and it's actually Hoylett pulls it back, and Kieran Bowie has an air swipe, which was a bit gutting because it was a nice bit of movement. It would have been a really nice goal for this, and I think he would have burst the net if he made contact with it. But that's the difference. I think having Hoylett in that position, and it's nothing against Josh Campbell, he's done very well in that role, but he doesn't really offer those type of small runs in behind. He's more get the ball wide and I'll go and attack in the penalty box. And listen, it's maybe something he can add to his game, but I think you can see the benefit of having Hoylett in that role and what he can do, especially if you're against the team that are sitting back and trying to play in like a low block.
Yeah, he adds sort of wee subtleties to that, Hoylett, doesn't he?
He does. And then even into the second half, this was very early on. I think this goes into the Boyle chance, but good distances between Triantis and Levitt again. And I think because there's a trust there from Triantis going into Levitt, he knows it's going to get done quick. He sort of bounces it. He spins off his man. Levitt plays it forward. If you go into the next clip, Hoylett first time drops it into Triantis, who plays in Boyle first time, and Boyle goes through sort of 1v1, has the shot that the keeper saves. I think that's in the next clip. So, again, you can see just in 2 or 3 passes, suddenly we're in behind, and that is, we're talking about how the team's going to evolve. That is what we need to do against teams that are going to sit back against us. We're going to need to play quick if we win the ball back in transition. And I think there's maybe just a couple more. We're in the goal there. So listen, I just really enjoyed that, and there was more examples from a little bit in the second half, a couple of good examples of us playing out from the back and Levitt going and getting it off Smith and turning and playing. But I just really like the look of that midfield together. And the next home game against St Johnstone, I'd quite fancy that same trio to start again, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'd quite like to see it actually, because I think there's definitely potential there. Like, I know Hibs didn't win this game, but they were very, very close to doing so. Another day, I think one of those kind of half chances probably finds the net and they kill the game off. But it's so we're kind of not getting away from the fact that they kind of threw it away a bit at the end. But it's just the kind of within the performance, I feel like there was a lot to like. You've kind of highlighted it. It's 3 guys who can combine and move, and I think Hoylett, just as you said there, it was a kind of thing that struck me from the game, is he does bring a sort of flexibility to the attack. He can drop into those wee pockets. He can go centrally. He can he did quite a lot, go out to the sort of left hand side, and it just creates a bit of freedom, I think, for Boyle or whoever to go and pick up other spaces, because I think maybe not seen it so much as late, but when Boyle moved into the front 2, if you like, I think there was the feature of it certainly in the first few weeks was that he seemed to have freedom to kind of go and roam and pick up areas where he best saw fit. I've maybe not seen that as much of late, but I feel like you've highlighted a couple of examples there where he is able to do it, and I think that's when you bring in somebody like Hoylett who'll pick up intelligent positions, he'll create space for other people. Then I think that's what you get. Kind of unlocks others to go and do their thing as well. St Johnstone, I think they're. It's not the St Johnstone under Craig Levine that Hibs will be playing next weekend. From what I'd be lying if I said I'd seen an awful lot of them, but under the new manager, relatively new manager, Simo Valakari, they seem to want to come out and play a wee bit. So it could be an interesting game. But obviously, to finish up with Saturday's game, we'll just run through the 2 goals, Hibs opener and then the late Kilmarnock equaliser, which I'm not sure anybody wants to see again, but it's worth just having another look at to see where it went wrong. Anybody of a Kilmarnock persuasion who stumbled on this video will not want to see this again, because this was it was borderline comical from their point of view, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an uncommon sort of set piece routine, and you can see from the beginning, like you can see all the Kilmarnock players in the 6-yard box. That's all planned to sort of pin the Hibs players and keep them in the 6-yard box so the ball can be cut back. And I couldn't work out with the run here. I couldn't actually see which Kilmarnock player it was. If he was arriving late, as in like he wasn't organised, he was running late into the box, or if he was running late to try and block Hoylett off. To try and screen that because of his positioning, but it's a late run in, And then if you go into the next clip, he sort of bounces off Hoylett a little bit
Yeah.
and sort of lets, he doesn't screen him in the slightest. And you can even still see in the 6-yard box there that the Kilmarnock players, like, they're all quite close to the Hibs players. They're trying to hold them. And on the far side, I think you can see that, that Kilmarnock player had pulled away so that Levitt was far enough away that he couldn't influence it. So whoever it was running in to try and screen Hoylett or block Hoylett, it's made an absolute meal of it. I don't think it was a particularly great ball from Fraser Murray either across, but that just allowed Hoylett the extra 2 or 3 yards to get the pads. I mean, you would probably had a better view from the position you would have been in,
but forgive me, I can't remember who exactly it was, and I can't make it out from the image from that. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to speculate and blame somebody who wasn't responsible for it. But what I will say is Derek McInnes obviously got asked about it after the game, and he said, and again, he didn't name check who he thought it was, but I think it's fairly obvious when you watch it. His words were basically somebody didn't do their job properly. And I think it's got to be that late run has to be for the purposes of screening whoever is whoever would be designated as the guy for Hibs to press out to the edge of the box, which is obviously based on where he was Junior Hoylett. So I think it's that is where it's fallen down. You need that guy to do his job properly. Hoylett in this case can't be allowed to get anywhere near the ball. But it was a pretty half-hearted effort at stopping him, or he's just not understood what he was to do. And
there was no reason for him not to start in the box, I don't think, or like just maybe late move in and just sort of block. So I couldn't. I watched it back a couple of times, and I don't really see the benefit of him running late to try and block that, and because actually,
unless it's to try and distract attention. If you see somebody making a late run, you would maybe react to that, and then you're following that guy. Next thing you know, you've took a step back, the ball's going to the edge of the box. But again, I'm kind of inclined to agree with you. You're maybe just better starting.
Or just arriving a bit earlier into the box. And so, obviously, you go Hoylett pinches it here at the end. He sort of gets away, blocks the shot. You can see he actually gets there quite sharp ahead of the Kilmarnock player. And then after that, I mean, if you go into that next clip, there's still a lot to do from here. And it's... obviously, it's Levitt carrying the ball, and it's Hoylett and Boyle in full run. And obviously, Kilmarnock have only left Lewis Mayo at the back. But I noticed here just in sort of 24-28, and this is the first moment Levitt looks up, really. He's like driving straight on with the ball, and he's obviously can see Hoylett and Boyle probably in his peripheral, and they're probably shouting. But this is the first time he sort of looks across the Boyle just to sort of assess, because he obviously is thinking that's who I'm going to slide in the ball to. And if you go into that next clip, it's just Lewis Mayo just sort of plants his weight at that point, just as he gets in here. And I think Levitt is just such a beautifully timed, well-weighted pass into Boyle's path to finish. Because under hit that, Boyle take an extra touch. I think Mayo gets back and maybe the Kilmarnock players recover. Over hit it, Boyle's going too far away from goal, having to take it on his left foot. So it's just such a great weighted pass. And then if you go into the final clip, it's obviously the McCrory gets an elbow and an arm tip, but because Boyle opens his body up and sort of puts a bit of swerve on the ball, any hit off the keeper, it's just going to spin. It's going to spin in the way it's going anyway, and it's just a really great finish as well, and just a brilliant counter-attack goal.
Yeah, I think with the pass as well, just to bring it back, it can actually sometimes, I think, it can be easier to get it wrong when you've had so much time to think about it.
Totally.
Because you've got to get that right. So it's a great goal all round. Obviously, a disaster from Kilmarnock's point of view, but well finished by Boyle. Kind of important contributions from Hoylett and Levitt, and it looked as though it was going to be the winning goal until this happened. So tell us, just to finish up, Craig, what went wrong here?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched it back a fair few times now, and we've got good bodies.
And there's so many people in. Many bodies
good
back
bodies
now.
behind the ball. But I think we've spoken about this before, where I do think sometimes from a throw-in or a free kick or a corner, and when we're in that sort of second phase, so basically once we've cleared the ball the first time and the opposition pick up the ball again and they look to cross it, I do think sometimes we try and almost get back into our positions rather than just deal with, what's in front of us at times, and maybe that's a bit of a harsh criticism, but I just think there's been a few times we've picked that up. And yeah, so we've got good numbers here, and I flagged Josh Campbell because he straight away points to Iredale in terms of picking up the Kilmarnock player who ends up getting the header across for Fraser Murray. Which I can't actually off the top of my head remember who that was.
Is it Joe Wright?
Was it Joe Wright?
I'm not sure.
I actually noted it down, but I'll have a quick check.
We need to get HD on these screenshots, don't we? So we can make out faces.
I really do. Yeah, Joe Wright. It was.
Joe Wright, there we go.
So as it goes out, if you go into the next clip, I think it's not a massive problem, but you have both Triantis and Mariah Welsh closing the ball down there, which obviously means you've got your two holding midfielders out of that position, and then on the other side, Campbell's just passed on a man, and you can just see that Cadden and Lewis Miller just sort of you can see where they are just in sort of the 18-yard box there. So we're a wee bit out of shape, and we've not got two holding midfielders in there. Gale and Kurevich are back in as well, so we're just not quite set the way we should be. But there, even in that moment, you can see Rocky's there, Campbell's there. It doesn't look too bad from here, but when you go into that next clip here, I think Iredale gets caught under the ball. I mean, it's a hard win for him against Wright in terms of the height, but he just gets caught under, and you can just see there when that ball's going across, Rocky has to go to the near post run, cover that danger. Campbell's not picked up anyone, and you can see Miller and Cadden at this point kind of trying to scramble back in. I just think we needed to, and obviously at the back post there, you've got Obita, you've kind of got Gale not really doing too much, kind of what you'd expect maybe from a striker defending in the box. But I think we obviously clear that first ball, it goes out. I think Triantis and Mariah Welsh, they probably don't both need to go, and if we just dropped back in a bit quicker, I think Miller can maybe get across there, Campbell could maybe pick up Murray, and we might just about be able to get away with that one and get it clear. But it's just a couple of decisions by a few players, and yeah, I mean, if you look at Rocky and what he's left with in that position to deal with,
that's too much for one man.
Too much. And then I think the final clip, it's any player shooting from there, it's a very difficult thing to expect Smith or Rocky to block. I didn't sure if it took a nick off Rocky on the way in or not.
Might have done, because I think and then obviously Smith won't be able to see that until it comes past Rocky. So I think he dives to his right, and it maybe sort of goes to the other side. He's maybe just gambled, thinking that he's going to go to that corner. So I need to check and see if it did take a wee nick through. But it is a frustrating one, that I think, and it's after what had been such a largely good performance as well. But it just kind of shows you just wee moments. I think it's so dangerous at that time of the game, isn't it? Because it's not it's maybe not a lack. There maybe is a bit of tiredness in there. Concentration can sometimes go, but it's like sometimes there can be an over eagerness, I think, to just contribute in moments like that, and instead of being sort of calm. And that's it. And it ends up a wee bit of a mess.
It's a wee bit just a couple of the guys like Miller and stuff. It's a bit ball watching, and the ball goes out, and rather than dropping back in and just picking up the danger, it's just switching off just for that 5-10 seconds, which we know how tight the league is. Everybody can score against everybody at different points, and it was just that last minute, and it was a shame because it was almost sort of a perfect away performance, really, if we see that out. Apart from we only had a handful of chances in the second half with Boyle and Triantis and stuff like that, but nothing to get too worried about. I actually think there was enough positives from how we played to take out the game, and certainly to influence how we'll play at home against St Johnstone.
Yeah, certainly I wouldn't be getting too downhearted about that. I know it is a bit of a throwback to those late collapses of earlier in the season, but collapse even then feels a wee bit strong. I think you could see by the XG chart towards back at the start of the show that it's not as if there was chance after chance for Kilmarnock, and it gets to a point where you think, the goal's inevitable. I think it's just, as you say, maybe a few folks switching off at the wrong time at the very end of a game, and it's proven costly. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there as far as Saturday's game goes. Thanks as always for joining us, folks. We'll be back later in the week to build into the home game against St Johnstone. Just in terms of our content for the rest of the week, we'll actually have we've got an exclusive interview with Hector Triantis going on the Hibs Observer website tomorrow. Like kind of wide ranging from growing up in Australia, his experience of football there, coming over to Europe with Sunderland. He's pretty frank about his first spell up at Hibs, and then what led him into then wanting to come back. On top of that, obviously the big question over Triantis now is where does his future lie? And we spoke to him a bit about that as well. So £1 will get you full access to that interview if you're not already a Hibs Observer subscriber. As a subscriber only interview, that so you can get on our website hibsobserver.co.uk if you fancy signing up to get a read at that. The option is there. As I said, it'll be available to all our current subscribers from early tomorrow morning. So yeah, just a wee plug for that before we go. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to Craig, as always, for joining us and his insight into the weekend's game. We'll speak to you again very, very soon. Until then, take care, folks. Thank you.